Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. This morning, a Philadelphia high school principal, this thing got me so heated, is under fire. This principal is under fire after refusing to give Black students at an all girls school their diplomas as they walked across the stage to receive them. The crime, their families cheered. One of the recipients danced, what they call the gritty. I never heard of that. I probably know the dance, but never heard of the gritty. But we're going to talk about that. Going to bring some details this morning. Also, a Chicago police sergeant has been fired for his role in a botched 2019 raid at the home of a Black woman who was handcuffed while naked after police officers were sent to the wrong address. And of course, the rent is too darn high. Evictions have spiked and pandemic protections have been phased out. We will tell you more about that as well this morning. And speaking of police and Black folks, we got a story for you that's a little different, that should really touch even the hardest of hearts. We'll give you some details on that a little bit later this morning on the show. But welcome to Let It Be Known. And we start in the city of so-called brotherly love. There was no sisterly love there, that's for sure. In a Philadelphia high school and its principal going viral for all the wrong reasons. Maybe many of you have now seen this video on social media, but there's actually a few of them. But there she is. During the recent graduation at the Philadelphia, well, watch what this principal does. She waves her off. She does not get her diploma. Principal Lisa Messi refused to hand it over. This earned diploma, and this young lady, her name is Hafsa Abdur Rahman, and she's 17 years old. And the reason, she said her parents were clapping for her when she danced across the stage. She said she was doing the gritty, and 12 years of hard work went down the drain due to this draconian rule put in place that most people think makes no sense whatsoever. As soon as she got to the principal, she was told her diploma would be given to her after the ceremony, which is what happened. This resulted in her crying and other students. She said that the principal stole that moment from me. I will never get that again. So not only the school and principal uh, being criticized over this, they were criticized all over, not just the U.S. but the globe. The school district, though, of Philadelphia says we have no such policy, and they insisted that the policy was exclusive to this all-girls high and not sanctioned by the district. They issued a statement saying the district does not condone the withholding of earned diplomas based on family members cheering for their graduates. We apologize to all the families and graduates who were impacted and are further looking into this matter to avoid it happening in the future. This young graduate told the outlet that the principal had warned students their families could not cheer or clap when they walked on stage, and it was the laughter from the crowd that led to the principal's refusal. She said other students were also denied diplomas during the ceremony, but they all received them later. Still, she says she was so embarrassed. She says, I couldn't even enjoy the rest of the graduation. If they thought that I shouldn't do the gritty across the stage and do the girls' high traditions, nobody should have been able to wave or blow kisses or do period signs, because I feel like that's the same thing. I feel like that's unfair, she said. It is outrageous, David Youngblood. And here's the thing. Let's keep it real. This teacher, this principal, all girls school, and you see it, and it was these Black female students. It's another way of showing how Black females mean nothing to these people, nothing at all. They don't care nothing about their future, don't care nothing about their present. It was just horrible to with. I i got girls, I gotta tell you, I, I would have to do some serious praying if that was one of my girls, because I think principal would have met me on that stage. I'd have met the principal right there on stage. You give him my child this diploma, and we're gonna do this all over again. That is absolutely outrageous. Power 96 says the principal must be the president of the Caring Club. She certainly behaved that way. How do you take that moment away from these young girls, these young women? It's just absurd, absolutely absurd that she did not give them their diplomas because their families cheered them as they, and in this case, she says it wasn't even the dance that the girl did, it was the cheering. They are celebrating such a great occasion. They made it through whatever torture that school put them through for 4 years, because obviously that was a sign right there that there must have been some torture in that school. They had to outlast this principal and and these instructors in that school. They ought to be, she we love to say somebody needs to lose their job, or what, this principal needs to lose her job. She needs to never be a principal again. Just like with cops who are, lieutenants or sergeants or captains and get busted down to, patrolmen when they finally get called out and charged with anything. She needs to be at the very least stripped of being a principal. I don't know how you do that. I don't know what mechanisms in place, or at least if that can't happen, fire her. She can never preside over another graduation. Life sentence on that one. Because that young lady and her peers, that this was a lifelong accomplishment. Dr. Nicole says it seemed like it was not the first time or year this happened. It's been going on for a while. Now, hopefully, it will change. But could you imagine all the work that the students and the parents, in a lot of cases, put in, and you steal that moment? That is absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely. My wife was saying what would happen? We would be in her office, and not only would she give them the diploma, but we would do it all over again. She would have to let them walk and present them the diplomas the way she should have in the first place. I don't disagree. It's absolutely horrible to have done this to these students, all young women. It's an all girl school. I didn't even know they still had that, by the way. A girl school or all boys school. I would have hated to have gone to an all boys school or one school or one sex school. Um, Power 96 says this principal better not come to Baton Rouge. Those students dance so hard, their videos go viral every year. Yeah. So anyway, we'll see if there's any repercussions. The school district has said that this is not their policy. They didn't condone it, they said. So we'll see what actions they will take. It might this is a story that could just go away because here we are. It's summer break now, and those many of those young ladies are going on to college or whatever else they choose to do with their lives, and will probably be more likely to just put the episode behind them. But this was really sad. Also, this morning, we are bringing you the story out of Chicago. A Chicago police sergeant was fired for his role in a botched 2019 raid at the home of a Black woman who was handcuffed while naked after police officers were sent to, guess where? The wrong address. The Chicago Police Board voted 5-3 Thursday to fire Sergeant Alex Walensky for multiple rules violations and failure of leadership in the raid at the apartment of Anjanette Young, according to a 31-page written ruling. Young, who's a social worker, was getting ready for bed in February 2019 when several officers serving a no-knock warrant, there's that thing again, no-knock warrant, stormed into her apartment on Chicago's near West Side, searching for a man believed to have an illegal gun. Can you imagine? Police body cam footage showed the raid, and it showed the officers handcuffing Young, who was naked when police arrived, as she repeatedly told them that they were in the wrong place. The city's law department said Young was naked for 16 seconds, but the covering um, officers put on her kept falling off before she was allowed to get dressed several minutes later. Botch raid and the city's handling of it prompted anger from everyone, including the clergy, including lawmakers, and of course, civil rights activists who just lambasted this action as racist and an affront to a Black woman's dignity. She later sued the city over the raid, resulting in the Chicago City Council voting unanimously in December 2021 to pay her $2.9 million to settle her lawsuit. Young said in a statement released by her attorneys that Walensky's firing is only a small piece of the justice for which I have been waiting. While my heart goes out to his family because they now suffer the consequences of his abhorrent misconduct, I wish all 8 members of the Chicago Police Board would have recognized the need and urgency for Sergeant Walensky's removal. Yeah, 3 of them thought he shouldn't be removed, which is again absurd. Police at the time, Police Superintendent David Brown brought administrative charges against Walensky, recommended that he be fired. Walensky, who had joined the Chicago Police Department in 2002, was accused of violating 8 departmental rules, including inattention to duty, disobedience of an order, and disrespect or maltreatment of any person. The Civilian Office of Police Accountability also called for his firing and for suspensions for several other officers who were present during that raid, although to date, no other officer has faced police board charges for that raid. While the incident happened before former Mayor Lori Lightfoot took office in May 2019, her administration later tried to block the police video from airing on television and rejected Young's Freedom of Information request to obtain video of the incident. She later obtained it through her lawsuit. So they forced her to have to sue to get video tapes released of that. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Power 96 says all those cops should be fired. Um, and I mean, this is a horrible, horrible sight. Um, this naked Black woman handcuffed and surrounded by these big armed white men. Just let that marinate for a moment. And nobody stepped up. Nobody stepped up. So that $2.9 million settlement and this guy's firing, well, some justice, some justice. But that again, that $2.9 million, where does it come from? As Barrington likes to bring out, uh, comes from the taxpayer's pocket, not the police officer. And once again, qualified immunity must go. It must go. I just have to believe that if they're not protected in that way, where taxpayers will have to foot the bill, where they themselves have to foot the bill, their insurance would have to fit the bill. They less of these incidents will happen. These incidents will happen less and less. It is my belief that it would. Moving on to speaking of taxpayers, how about rent payers? Good Lord. Rent is so high, and after a lull during the pandemic, now evictions are so high. Filings by landlords have come roaring back, driven by the rising rents and a long-running shortage of affordable housing. Most low-income tenants can no longer count on pandemic resources that had kept them housed, and many are finding it hard to recover because they haven't found steady work or their wages haven't kept pace with the rising costs of rent, food, and other necessities. Homelessness, as a result, is also rising. Protections have ended. The federal moratorium is obviously over, and emergency rental assistance money has dried up in most places. That was the words of Daniel Grubbs Donovan, who is a research specialist at Princeton University's Eviction Lab. He says across the country, low income renters are in an even worse situation than before the pandemic due to things like massive increases in rent during the pandemic, inflation, and other pandemic era, I should say, related financial difficulties. Eviction filings are more than 50% higher than the pre-pandemic average in some cities, according to the Eviction Lab, which tracks filings in nearly 3 dozen cities in 10 states. Landlords file around 3.6 million eviction cases every year. That is amazing. 3.6 million eviction cases are filed every year. Among the hardest hits are Houston, where rates were 56% higher in April and 50% higher in May. In Minneapolis, St. Paul area, rates rose, get this, 106% in March, 55% in April, and 63% in May. Nashville, Tennessee was 35% higher, and Phoenix was 33% higher in May. Rhode Island was up 32% in May as well. And New York, the median rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Manhattan reached $4,000. Four. Oh, my. The latest data mirrors trends that started a year ago with the Eviction Lab. I can't say it this morning, finding nearly 970,000 evictions filed in locations it tracks, which is a 78.6% increase compared to 2021, when much of the country was following an eviction moratorium. Mm. Wow. By December, evictions filings were nearly back to pre-pandemic levels, and at the same time, rent prices nationwide are up about 5% from a year ago and 30.5% above 2019. That's according to Zillow. And as David brings out, $4,000 is more than most mortgages in America, and that's extremely true. That's one point. There are few places for displaced tenants to go, with the National Low Income Housing Coalition estimating a 7.3 million shortfall of affordable units nationwide, with many vulnerable tenants having to be evicted long ago, if not for the safety net created during the pandemic. Now that safety net is gone out the window. If you recall, the official declaration of the end of the pandemic was in May, the beginning of May, that it officially ended, meaning all of the programs, all of the safety nets created went with it. Um, Situation has only gotten worse. The federal government, as well as many states and localities, issued moratoriums, of course, during the pandemic that put evictions on hold, and most have now ended. There was also $46.5 billion in federal emergency rental assistance that helped tenants pay rent and funded other tenant protections. Much of that has been spent or allocated, and calls for additional resources have failed to gain any traction in Congress. And that is exactly where things are. It's really sad that you have people in charge who don't want to do anything for those who are struggling. Angela Connolly says most seniors that needed that eviction money didn't receive a dime. The upper class got all of the big money. And what she says is factual. It's factual, and that's where we are. But $4,000 a month, I go back to that too, David. It's how does one live in Manhattan? I mean, I would love to live in Manhattan, but not at $4,000 a month for a one bedroom too. Oh gosh, how does one live anywhere? Rents are absolutely. Well, here's the interesting thing: rents are so high, and now mortgage rates are so high. A couple of years ago, you can get a mortgage for 3.5%. Now it's 7. It's doubled. It's absolutely Things have gone, as James Brown says, things have gotten too far gone. Daniela Pierre says perhaps employers should consider doing more. For example, offering a flex plan benefit that will go towards housing. That's a good idea. Wow, unreal. Well, here's a bit of well, not a bit of it. It's a really touching story. The latest story, we know all the stories about police officers and um, African Americans. Um, but this 7-year-old aspiring police officer from Virginia should brighten your day with his encounter with local cops that resulted in a happy ending. In a touching story published by The Root, Brittany Robinson, mother of five from Emporia, Virginia, said her son, Tavion, has always wanted to be a cop. He dreamed, or his dream, I should say, stemmed from the excitement of watching the police department march through the town's annual parade with their float, cruising on their motorcycles, flashing their lights, and honking their horns. His um, his mother says, he said to me, "Mom, I want to be a police officer when I grow up." And since then, he just took a liking to the police. Um, Tavion wasn't just interested based on the flashing lights and fancy uniforms, however. He also built a relationship with the police starting when the town led a peaceful protest the summer George Floyd was murdered in Minneapolis. Robinson's brother was killed by two Emporia officers in 2008, but since then um, hasn't hardened that family hasn't hardened their heart toward law enforcement. They were reminded that, quote, good apples exist, especially when the mother saw a white sheriff pick up her son and march with him on his shoulders during the 2020 protest. After noticing the boy's unwavering fascination with the department, he was gifted a police costume for Christmas. Robinson sent a photo of her son donning this new uniform to the Emporia Police Department, asking that they grant his wish to tour the station. When his wish was granted, the video of his little adventure got love from over 5 million people on TikTok. The mother said, I said, Tavion, look, you got all these likes on TikTok from your video. He said, oh man, I'm famous. she, she says that she kept the tour as a surprise until the day of when she woke him up and told him to be ready in his police uniform by 9 a.m. She says, he said, I bet you I'm going to the police station. So he guessed it. He said, I bet you I'm going to the police station. He poked his mother with questions every few seconds to find out where he was going, where she was taking him. And then, just as he suspected, the police cruiser pulled up in the driveway. Two officers greeted him and put his booster seat in the back of the patrol car for a ride down to the department. He got the complete experience from flying the drones to riding in the golf cart. He also left with tons of goodies, including a collectible miniature car from the major's office and a badge. So since that day, Robinson, the mom, said that Tavion can't stop talking about it, and the officers insisted to bring him back for department hosted events for the kids. Um, Robinson always makes a point to remind all of her children that while they should be careful when encountering the police, not to judge a person by their badge. She says there are some good police officers in the world, despite what other people say. And she says, I really think Tavion being a police officer will have a positive impact on this world. Um, this I wish we had the video. You got to see this kid. If you go, the root is not part of Black Press of America, but we still encourage you to check this story out. Oh, there it is, and there's the little guy going to get in the squad car there. Um, it was really cool. And you can only hope. You can only hope that something like this will even serve to soften some of those officers' hearts. Um, he they killed his brother, but he still loves policing. He wants to be a police officer. Good for the little guy and his mom for really taking the high road. Very very difficult, but she has taken the high road in that situation and really encouraged her son not to, as she says, judge them by their badge. Um, good story out of Virginia, and thanks to the Root, got to give credit where credit is due. They brought this story to light over the weekend, and really glad to share it this morning. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we will see you again tomorrow on Let It Be Known.